Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? Welcome back to, I guess we'll call this an immediate reaction or a knee-jerk reaction podcast here, the BTSC Roundtable, whatever you want to call it. We're here to talk about the 2021 NFL Draft. The round 2 pick is in. It is, at pick number 55, tight end from Penn State, Pat Freiermuth, or as I'm going to call him, Frothy Muth. I don't know why, it rings. It's a good name. Anyways, we, as a collective, on our Slack channel, we're all in on Creed Humphrey. He was there, Oklahoma center. I had everything filled out in the article, and then they go with tight end Frothy Muth. So I want to get your knee-jerk reaction first before we talk about who was still available and all of that stuff. We'll start with you, Bryan. Anthony Davis, welcome to the show. Why don't you give us his knee-jerk reactions?
So my wife had to call 3 neighbors and say everything was okay here because there were 5 long no's and the F word in front of my 13-year-old son. So I had to apologize. They were sustained no's. Dogs were running and hiding. Everything was, and my wife just sat there and laughed at me, and then she quietly says, "So you didn't want him?" Because all I was talking about Creed. Now look, I do like Pat Freiermuth, I really do. I just didn't want him here because I had my heart set on Creed. But what do I know? I hated the Ryan Shazier pick.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, Dave Schofield, other co-editor. What's up, Dave? And what's your knee-jerk reaction?
Knee-jerk reaction isn't about the pick itself. It's about who they didn't take, which was kind of like last night as well. Right off the bat, I'm like, well, but they had this person or this person they could have done. And honestly, it wasn't anyone else. It was Creed Humphrey. That was who both you and I thought if the draft didn't go the way the Steelers wanted it to, that might be their best option even in round 1. And he was still there in round 2, and he still wasn't their best option. But it doesn't mean that they didn't like him. It just means they like somebody else better. That's what I'm going to continue to believe. And you cannot say that tight end was not a very big need by this team. But like I said on the Breaking News podcast, which is already out there on our audio platforms, that a lot of Steeler fans thought they were going to be getting a different Penn State tight end because they thought it was going to be the return of one Jesse James following the draft, who is a street free agent, so they didn't have to wait till after the draft, but that was how the Steelers were going to try to fix that issue. But they didn't. They went younger. They went probably better. I mean, not established, but a higher pedigree. So, I mean, maybe they're just, you know how I am with position rankings and how I think that's the biggest load of whatever you want to do. That's not how teams draft. But they did get the best running back and the second best tight end. So that's what they've done with their 2 rounds.
I want to get to these super chats before I bring Michael Beck, our deputy editor, on, because I know Michael Beck is going to want to pump this thing up. He's going to want to give us a positive spin. And so we have some negative comments. Let's get that out in the open now. Our buddy Isaac, who's been a longtime viewer of the programs, gives us $5. Thank you, Isaac. He says, so we're just going to use Ebron for passing plays and Pat for run plays. Steelers going to continue to be predictable. Okay. Kyle Smith gives us $5. He said, remember yesterday when all the fans were saying there would be plenty of top tackles left at 55? I sure remember that. Those were the days, wasn't it, Kyle, when all the top tackles would be available? Boy, was there a run on tackles. There were players that were predicted to go round 3, some even maybe round 4 that went in round 2. Dave Shipley gives us $5. Great pick. Ebron free. Juju. Claypool, DJ, well, he's just naming the pass catchers. Harris in the house. He's excited. Dave likes it. And so does Michael Beck. Michael, welcome to the show. What's your knee-jerk reaction?
I really do like this pick. Like Bryan and Dave were saying, yeah, it sucks not to get Creed right away, but we also got to keep in mind Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin both agreed at their press conference. This is a deep center class. They thought a lot of guys could come in and start right away. Only Lander Dickerson at this point has been drafted. So I think there's a really good opportunity. They still get a center. This pick specifically, one of the arguments people were saying when it came to drafting a running back in the first round is the top completely falls off after the first 3 picks. When it comes to tight end, you got Kyle Pitts, who's more of like a really big receiver than Pat Freiermuth. And to me, that's about it. The Steelers got 2 of the best at positions where there just weren't a lot of guys that could step in and play right away. Right now, I still feel like they're projecting to have like 3 or 4 guys being starters right away. And that's unheard of for the Pittsburgh Steelers when it comes to rookies, especially if a center is the pick at 87.
We shall see. Sean Manahan gives us $2 and says, as long as we fix the offensive line in the later rounds, like Dave said yesterday, you can't always bank on a fourth rounder like Kevin Dotson being able to come in and be an impact player right away. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but it's just not likely. Matt gives us $2, says Muth, or Moot. I guess it's Muth. There's probably gonna be a lot of those chants. He's a low. Yeah, there you go. I got to be honest. My knee-jerk reaction was, first, I can't believe they didn't take Humphrey because I had the entire article filled out, and I was really ready.
What
just
are they
to
doing making your job more difficult?
Yeah, come on, man. I mean, seriously, I was ready to just take the tweet, put it in there, hit publish, and bang, we'd be the first one out there. And then no. I'm sorry. You all can try to put lipstick on a pig. I just don't like this pick. I don't think that he is baby Gronk that people say that he is. I honestly don't even see the tight end position being a huge need for the Steelers with Eric Ebron still on staff on the team. I just don't think it's a second round pick. I could be wrong. I did a breakdown of this guy and I left the breakdown after I published it. It was like, I don't think he really fits. I don't see this being a need. I don't know. I hate the tight end class. I've said that openly on multiple podcasts. I thought this tight end class outside of Pitts was just trash. I'm sticking by my guns. I'm not happy with the pick, but at the same time, I also trust the Steelers. So there you have it. All right. So Bryan Anthony Davis, let's throw it back to you. When they take Freiermuth with the second round pick, what does this tell you about the Steelers offense in 2021? Or does it tell you anything at all? Because so far they have running back, tight end, and then we have to see what happens for the rest of day 2 and day 3. But right now, what does this tell you about the Steelers offense this year?
It tells me that they think they know something that we don't know. And they do know that we don't know because they're them. And that's the bottom line to it. Now, I just confused Michael Beck. Yeah. Jeff understands me because Jeff knows me. Dave does too. So what I'm
Seattle has 2 losses.
Exactly.
I'm bringing up one for me.
So really what I'm trying to say here is they are more content with their offensive line at this juncture. They are looking down the line. I'm not guaranteeing that they're going to go one in the third round. So now my next favorite player is from the Ohio State University. It's Josh Myers. Then after that, after they pass on him, I'm in love with Trey Hill again from Georgia. So, you have those guys out there. I'm discounting the whole Quinn Miners thing just because I'm starting to think maybe he really is a guard and not a center. And you should get somebody established if you want to bring him in and not a project. So I think they know something. I think they're comfortable. They're definitely comfortable with Chooks at left tackle right now and at right tackle, Zach Banner. But they said this the other day, and it was Mike Tomlin at the press conference said, right now, our left tackle is Chooks Okorafor. That can change. That can change right now. But if you're saying right now on this day, he's our left tackle. They have plans. They're not going to ignore that position. They have all these scouting reports that we don't have. They know exactly where they're going. They've got a roadmap. They have that top 24. So I'm going to accept this pick. But you notice I'm hoarse from screaming. And I think this guy's talented. It's just not what I wanted. It's kind of like this. You wanted an Xbox for Christmas and you get a pair of socks. That's it.
Oh man, that's bad.
Nah, he's not a pair of socks.
I thought you were going to say
not a pair of socks.
Okay, you get the paddle with the ball on it.
No, he's the old school electronic football game that you have to. You know what I'm saying?
Even that's really bad. That's really bad. Like you could have said
but it's not.
You could have said a Super Nintendo, which was
okay. There you
cool
go.
Back in the day.
That's probably better.
All
you get the Atari 2600.
Yeah,
Mike. We might as well be speaking Chinese to Mike.
Hey,
Josh
SNES,
Myers
that was
just
my
went off the
system.
board.
Who?
Josh Myers just went off the board to Green Bay at 62.
I got to tell you, I didn't like Josh Myers. I was never in love with this guy at all.
Oh my gosh,
Now
the
he's
Steelers got to trade. I still think that they need to trade. They got to get it. If they want that guy, they got to get that guy.
Creed Humphrey is left-handed. Like I said this months ago, I wonder if that's a thing because I don't remember a left-handed center ever. I feel like that might be a thing, honestly.
That got him to a pretty legit program.
But
I mean,
NFL's a different animal, though.
it is. It is. You're right.
Maybe kind of like they say, you don't take a running back in the first round. Maybe you don't take a left-handed center in the second round. Maybe that's the thing.
All right, let's get to a couple super chats here. Andrew Palladino gives us $10. He says, JH, my Wheeling friend, that's my hometown, Wheeling, West Virginia. He said, this is your Motown. He's talking about Morgantown, West Virginia, neighbor. Andy, love that you guys are back at the helm. Great first couple picks, but holy cow, let's start ramping up the O-line. I think that's kind of the general consensus of the fan base. It's like, okay, this is great, but when are we going to start actually getting, some actual linemen? Sean Manahan gives us $2. Is any chance Dotson can switch to center? My question is, do you want him to switch to center?
I heard he was practicing snapping.
Oh gosh. Jeff,
I don't know. I think it might have just
You're making it worse, guys. You're making this worse. It's gone from bad to worse. Can we keep Dotson as a dominant guard there, please? Jeff Lauderdale gives us $5. Thank you, Jeff. Great name, by the way. He said, great pick. O-line wasn't only issue with run game last year. Ebron was primary blocker too many times last year on short yard plays. Let's talk this out a sec. If this guy, Freiermuth, is he a predominantly run blocking or blocker? Is that his MO?
I call him all around.
No.
More receiving.
The draft breakdown I just read on the Breaking News podcast said that's what he needs to improve on is blocking.
Because if they got like a Matt Spaeth type in the second round of the draft, I'm going to go berserk.
No.
It can't be that. It cannot be that.
It's not him.
Okay, but let's go to Dave. I want to ask you the same question I asked Bryan. Hopefully you're paying attention. And that is, where are the Steelers going as an offense now with Najee Harris, now with Pat Freiermuth? Where are they headed? What do you think this is starting to, the ball's rolling, but where is it headed?
It's funny because we kept saying that it was going to depend. We'll get more of an idea of the Matt Canada offense based on what I'm watching Roger Goodell read the
Creed Humphrey just went to Kansas City. Mother of pearl.
So they must not care about a left-handed center. Anyway, let's go back.
Reader.
What was Seattle has two. What was it?
Let's talk about this. The Steelers are running out of options. They took a tight end in round 2. This is why I don't have nothing against Freiermuth. It's the fact that I don't feel like it's that important. That's my thing. Like, that's my issue with this pick. It has nothing to do with the player. I'm not going to criticize him as a player. Like I said on my Let's Ride podcast today, Friday, that is, if you're going to criticize Najee Harris, don't criticize the player, criticize the pick, criticize the decision to take him when they did with the players that were available. That's where I'm being critical of the Steelers right now. You had a center. Now, unless they're saying you could have had a number of centers. Who's the guy from that you fell in love with, Bryan? What's his name? Ohio State?
Josh Myers.
Yeah. So maybe it was Josh Myers and not Creed Humphrey. I don't know. I don't care. But they went with a tight end. They must like BJ Finney a heck of a lot more than we do, or JC Hassenauer. In which case, I'm not. And Reginald says to trust the Rooneys. I understand. Trust the Rooneys. I get it. But right now, I have questions. That's all. Dave, go ahead.
Mike Tomlin loves him some BJ Finney. I know Ramon Foster, when he retired, he said, can't believe they ever let him get away. Mike Tomlin loves that guy. But he played on 2 teams last year that had major issues at the center position and didn't play a single offensive snap. Couldn't get on the field in Seattle, couldn't get on the field in Cincinnati. The Bengals, who pick up Fred Johnson 2 years ago from the Steelers on the waiver wire, who are trying to get him on the practice squad. They're picking up our practice squad guys, and we're going to take the cast off from the Bengals, who they didn't even won in that trade with Seattle. That's who they had to take in order to move Dunlap. And they took him, didn't play him, let him go, and that's going to be our guy. Yeah.
Michael,
what were we talking about before Creed Humphrey went away?
I'm just really ticked off. Michael, you're the positive one right now. I normally am the positive one. You got to try to talk me off the ledge here, because I'm about to go find a bridge and just say I'm going to throw my computer off it. I'm not jumping off it. I'm just going to throw come on, guys. What do you think? Okay, it's not that important. So, Michael, go ahead.
Trying to find the positive spin on the center side of things is a little more difficult. I suppose Quinn Miners is still there. With Myers gone and now Humphrey gone, I would hope the Steelers would be invested in trading up. Outside of that, those Steelers are kind of going off the board really fast. I guess our good buddy Jerry Dulac, who Jeff and I bantered about a little bit today, Drew Dahlman, the center out of Stanford, apparently the Steelers are really high on. So that's another name potentially for the third round. I think that's where he's been graded. So there are guys still there, but it feels like BJ Finney might be your week 1 starter, which sucks bad.
Let me ask you this, because you know more about this prospect than I do. So the kid from Stanford, whatever his name is that you just said,
Drew Dahlman,
is he a guy that can start right away? Or is he a project?
I think he's a little bit more of a project because he's a touch undersized. The thing with him that when you kind of look into his reports, he's just really smart. Stanford kid, really smart center, cerebral, but the physicality isn't quite there, which if you're trying to run the ball, I don't know. It seems like that'd be more of a project to me, but
because I want guys that can play now. Like that's what this, I mean, and I will say this, hey, tight end, he will play now. Freiermuth will play now. They want guys that are going to contribute, and he will. And if he contributes in a big way, I'll be the first one to say, I was wrong. Great pick. Love baby Gronk. I would love nothing more than to eat crow. I'm not one of those guys that's going to stick to my guns even when it's clearly I'm wrong. But you know what? I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. We're going to have another show in round 3, and we're going to wrap up the day. I want to talk more about Freiermuth himself. What does he bring to this team? That's what I want to know. Michael, I'll go ahead and start with you here. What does this guy bring to the team that's going to be an asset in 2021?
He has an ability to get open, and especially on this team, when you look at all the receiving talent, and now offensive talent in general with Najee Harris in the backfield, he is going to be a mismatch nightmare. You got to keep it in mind the size of some of these receivers the Steelers have. Eric Ebron, Chase Claypool, Freiermuth is 6'5". There are some legitimate size and mismatch type guys on this team. So in that sense, it's really exciting. Big Ben must be jumping for joy right now. He's going to have an amazing season if his elbow can hold up, because he's got some outstanding weapons around him. If they can protect him, look out. I really like the weapons of this team.
Dave, what are your thoughts? You just read the breakdown on your Breaking News podcast. When you hear Freiermuth, his traits, his weaknesses and strengths, what are some of the things that Steeler fans should look for?
That he's not just a guy that's here to block. He's more, and he's also not that tight end that's become the norm now. That's basically a huge wide receiver. You know, that's not who he is. He's more of the old school tight end, but not only in that manner. That's the best way I could describe him. Based on the breakdowns that I read. If you look at I just saw an old article that was up from, actually, it wasn't that old. It was from 2 days ago. They were doing draft profiles at the SB Nation site, Cincy Jungle, and their comparison was Freiermuth to Tyler Eifert.
If he's more durable, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who had just is coming back from shoulder surgery, if you all didn't know that. So yeah.
So Brian Anthony Davis, they do call, or some people, I'm not going to say they, as in a great fraction of the Penn State Nittany Lion fan club. Some people call him Baby Gronk. Is that justifiable? Rob Gronkowski was a different beast in his prime. I'm not saying he's still not good, but he was just a monster. Truth or a fact or fiction there, Brian? What do you think?
My buddy Doug, who has season tickets to both the Steelers and Penn State, loves this guy. He texted me right away and said, "You guys, we just got a winner." Now I'm looking at his stats: 69 receptions between 2018 and 2019. Of course, less games in 2020, so I'm not even talking about his 23. But he had 8 touchdowns in 18, 7 touchdowns in 19. That's Gronk-like type numbers. I don't know what Gronk's numbers were at when he was in Arizona, but this is a guy that could make a difference as a receiver. They didn't bring this guy in to block as much. That's something that he needs to work on. Something funny that a lot of people don't remember, back in 2015, when the Steelers selected Jesse James, the big knock on him was that he caught better than his blocking. And as he went on with the Steelers in his career, he became a better blocker. Now, this guy, Pat Freiermuth, is so much more of a receiver than Jesse James was. So I'm excited about that. If you want offensive firepower, you've got it. It just goes back to the the disappointment of not getting the pick that we thought you were going to get, but that's over. We got to think about, you've got a dynamic tight end right now. You've got a two-headed monster at tight end. This is a lot better than Ebron and Vance McDonald. So is he baby Gronk? I don't know, but he's going to get a lot of touchdowns with his size. He's going to be alone in the end zone. I think it's going to be very positive.
If he is a blocker, even just a little bit, if he's better than Vance McDonald, then the Steelers could be running 2 tight end sets a lot in 2021. It could be a really good. I'm trying to warm up to the pick. We'll put it that way. Alex gives us $5. Says, "Are the Steelers this confident in the new O-line coach, or does this make it worse?" I did winners and losers after round 1, and I had Clem as a winner and a loser. As a winner because he gets a flashy running back. I mean, that's going to help your offensive line with yards per carry and overall ground game. But then I gave him a loser because they didn't get a Tevin Jenkins who could really boost the running game. Guys, what are your thoughts on Clem? Does this help or hurt?
Hold on. Jeff, you know your guy's gone now.
I put it in the private chat. I guess you guys didn't see it.
Nope.
Yeah, the Bucks took Kyle Trask. I'm sorry, Kyle Trash. Trask. I'm sorry. I get those two mixed up.
Trash.
Hey, that's one thing to
Just
say
had
about the
interject,
Freiermuth
that's
pick. He wasn't
What?
Kyle Trask.
It wasn't Kyle Trask.
Yeah. Kyle Trask.
All right, we're all on board. Best
Could've
pick
been-
of the draft.
Yeah, best pick of the draft. There we go.
All right, so
There
let's
we
talk
go.
about Adrian Clem.
Yes.
Dave, we'll start with you. You confident in his ability? I mean, he hasn't shown really much of anything. We don't have anything, to
I mean,
base it off of.
and that's the thing. Maybe everything that you hear about Clem was that he was the one working with Kevin Dotson
Mhm.
as the assistant line coach, like you had said. So that's really about all we have. Do you really, if you have a huge problem with the offensive line, and maybe it's not a huge problem. Maybe they are madly in love with Zach Banner and Chuks Okorafor. I love the Steelers guards. I'm hoping, I'm going basically off of between the two of them. I'm going Dotson's 2020 is what I want to see, and DeCastro's not 2020 is what I want to see. And the biggest concern right now to me is center. I'm okay if that's the only thing they address that they really need. But if you aren't investing high draft capital, is that really what you want to put your first time offensive line coach, not assistant offensive line coach? That's what you want to ask him to do in year 1? That's my biggest question.
Yeah. All right, let's get to I want to ask that this is a super chat that I want to get Michael's take on, and that is Garrett gives us $5. Says, even as a project, talking about a potential center in the future, it can't be worse than BJ Finney or JC Hassenauer, right? LOL. That's my question. Let's say that they do end up getting a project. Is anyone comfortable with BJ Finney or JC Hassenauer? Good Lord, I can't believe I said that. Being the starting center in week 1. What do you think, Michael?
BJ Finney was supposed to be the starting center of the Seattle Seahawks last year, and he got beat by like a third string guard. I'm pretty sure we talked about that yesterday. Could an undrafted free agent supplant them? Like, seriously, if it's those two guys on the roster, I could see them being beat out by someone completely random. It's like, oh, wow, turns out DeCastro can snap the ball. Okay, Dave, you're going to be the center. I could see something like that happening if they do not add someone else at that position.
Dave, you were kind of fired up when I asked the question. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I still say that even when BJ Finney was with the Steelers, he was a much better guard than he was center. I still am not going to forget when week 16 of 2019, when he has to come in off the bench for an injured Marquise Pouncey, and the very first play, he steps on Mason Rudolph's foot and gets his collarbone broken because he gets jumped on from getting knocked onto the ground. That's the kind of thing. I thought I loved Finney when he was filling in for DeCastro. I felt there wasn't that much of a drop off there. But when he had to fill in for Pouncey, I felt that they had to work around him because he could work well next to Pouncey, but not in place of him. So I think Steeler fans are really going to see how much Marquise Pouncey meant to this offensive line. I really think they are, because
even an aging Marquise Pouncey.
Yes.
Even an aging Marquise Pouncey.
Because like Jeffrey Benedict said, it wasn't just Kevin Dotson. It was Kevin Dotson working with Marquise Pouncey that was just fantastic last year. is Kevin Dotson going to be able to do the same thing without a Marquise Pouncey next to him? You know, I hope so. That's my hopes. But to me, it was the Steelers' biggest need before this draft. And we broke down our needs and we crossed them off. And I threw the challenge flag because I had center as number 1 and running back as number 2. And I was okay if they were switched, but not. I mean, that's just the biggest thing. We need to get back to Freiermuth. Frothy Muth. Okay. But just say because I don't want to be so negative about what they haven't done because they haven't done it yet.
Right. Austin Roger gives us 5 Canuck bucks. Says, first, I'd like to say I love you guys. Second, all these Najee lovers are going to face a hard reality when they see BJ Finney trying to block for him. So let's go to Bryan Anthony Davis. If week 1 or even all season, BJ Finney is the guy. And there's a good question by Tyler. $5 bad. You got any spare BJ Finney pants? I don't know if he has spares. I mean, I don't know if do you fit into the ones that you have? That's the question. Do you still have them? You didn't sell them at a yard sale, did you?
No, come on. No, I don't give away. I still have a Richard Huntley jersey for crying out loud. So I have a Jarvis Jones in my closet. Now, look, here's the thing with BJ Finney. Those pants, I can't even look at them anymore. I'm so upset because you guys have denigrated a great man and a possible great center. Look, I believe in Adrian Clem. I don't think this draft is over. I'm telling you. I know I know Dave had the show about 3rd round picks only playing 25% of the time and starting. I know, I get that. But, I kind of believe that they know what they're doing. I know Finney is not your ideal guy. He's got those velociraptor arms. He's got those short arms where he just goes like this. And so I don't think he's protecting much, but they know something, once again, that we don't know. They've got a plan. I like to think they did. So that's why I'm going to jump back onto the Freiermuth conversation, like Dave said, and say, Finney, if he goes 16, if he has to go, it's better than Justin Hartwig. That's all I'm going to say. He's no Fernando Velasco either. So I'll take it.
I liked Velasco. I thought he was pretty good.
Actually, he was pretty good.
I actually was okay with they kept him. So there's a lot of people saying that we're complaining right now. We're not. This is how we hash things out. We're fans just like you are. Okay. And so right now, in case you just stumbled upon this video or this podcast, and you're like, man, they're not even talking about Freiermuth that much. It's because right now it's fresh. The Band-Aid just got ripped off. Okay. And we're dealing with everything. We're dealing with the 3rd round starting. We're dealing with Kansas City taking a center late in the 2nd round, a couple centers going at the end of the 2nd round. And we're trying to figure things out. Why? We're talking about the Steelers, okay? And so I think that Freiermuth is going to be a great player. I hope that he turns out to be baby Gronk. But right now, there's a lot of questions that Steelers fans have, and we're trying to answer them. So I'll tell you what, we don't want to go too long because we are going to be back after the 3rd round, and the 3rd round is underway right now in Cleveland, Ohio, the mistake by the lake. So why don't we just get some final thoughts on round 2, and then we'll go away, and then we'll come back. Bryan, we'll start with you. Final thoughts.
I think he's going to be a good player, not what I wanted, but, Dave Schofield loves Deontay Johnson now. That wasn't the case 2 years ago. Hey, like you said, this is immediate reaction. We're going to react like fans as well because we invest a lot of time in this, just like all the fans do as well. So I'm good with Pat Freiermuth now. He's here. Welcome to town, buddy. Catch a lot of passes. Be that baby Gronk.
Dave Schofield, final thoughts.
Well, he definitely goes in, into the number 2 spot on the depth chart. But I looked up a breakdown here in an article about him on CBS Sports, and their NFL comparison said, although he's called baby Gronk, they wouldn't go that far, but they would say maybe an early career Jason Witten, which is something that I would take as a Steelers fan. Some of their strengths did say that blocking was his strength, and a good catch radius. He's difficult to tackle, and he has creativity as a route runner. Okay. But the concerns were straight line speed, missing a large portion of 20. He only played 4 games in 2020 before opting out because of injury, and not as physical as a receiver on contested catches. And the biggest one that bothers that I didn't like is said some concentration issues as a receiver led to a high number of dropped passes.
Yay.
So that's not something that the Steelers really wanted in another tight end. Although we've all heard, Jeffrey Benedict lay out his case that Ebron's catches last year came really late when he had played more snaps than he ever had before, that he was just getting worn down. But hopefully Freiermuth can alleviate that some. So
that's
absolutely
not your best
love.
work.
What's that?
That's not his best work, Freiermuth.
No, I'm sorry.
But it's sticking. That's the thing.
Tight ends coach Alfredo Roberts loves this guy.
Bromance.
Two of them hit it off at the pro day so well. And sometimes that extra connection is just like, you know what? Not only is this a good player, we think in the right setting, we can even make him a great player. So love the potential of what the Steelers can do with another tight end, which they need. We'll worry about what they didn't draft when we see if they finally ever draft it.
All right, Michael Beck, final thoughts?
To kind of undercut Dave a little bit here, I'm sorry, but ESPN stats and info. Pat Freiermuth caught 95.5% of catchable targets inside the numbers, which was third amongst all FBS tight ends. So inside the numbers,
just reading what they had on CBS. So that makes me feel much better. Thank you.
But to get to my final thoughts, this guy catches a couple touchdown passes. Everyone's going to forget that Creed Humphrey was there. And really, once he makes a couple plays, once the Muse start just pouring out of the Heinz Field stadium seats, I'm sure this is a guy that Steelers fans could fall in love with. Huge tight end, all-around game that I'm quite excited for. I think he just adds to a very diverse group of offensive skill players. I think this is a very exciting group of guys catching passes from Big Ben, and this offense under Matt Canada is starting to take a little bit of shape. We just need offensive line. It could be fun. Oh, what happened, Dave?
What's wrong, Dave?
No, the Texans finally get to make their first pick of the draft.
Yay.
Davis Mills, quarterback, Stanford.
Oh.
So because they don't know the future of Deshaun Watson,
right,
who is by far their best player. So because they don't know that, what do they have to do with their first draft pick? Worry about if they don't even have their best player.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, let's get Snowman's super chat up here. He gives us $5. He said, "Can we get Pouncey to unretire or call and see what Benny Cunningham is doing?" Snowman, I'm sure there's a few players that might be saying, "Can we call Pouncey and see? Hey, you want to come back? You want to kind of pull a Tyson Alualu and come back to the Steelers?" I don't know if he would. Doubt it, but still, you never know. I'll tell you what. And Kevin Johnston just gave us $4.99 with nothing. So if you have a question, get it on there quickly. I'm going to say this. I hope I eat crow. I hope that Pat Freiermuth goes and just tears it up. I hope that the two tight ends they have, Ebron and Freiermuth, are just lighting the world ablaze. That would be great. Right now, I'm just not that enthusiastic about it. So that's it. That is what it is. So with that being said, we are going to call it a show here. We'll be back after the third round pick to wrap up not just round 3, but also the day that was and day 2 of the 2021 NFL draft. Make sure you check out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com for the latest and greatest about the Pittsburgh Steelers, your one-stop shop for all things black and gold. And wherever you get your podcasts, search Steelers or Behind the Steel Curtain, subscribe, follow, do whatever you have to do so you don't miss a thing. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you after the third round. Take it easy. Good Lord, just work on the O-line, right? Jeez.